When I was a little girl, they told me not to cry.
So a little bit about my story is I am a survivor of child sexual abuse and intimate partner abuse. I write music with my husband and just sort of became the subject matter of a lot of our music.
Who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name.
As a kid, music was kind of my escape. You know, I didn't ever tell anyone about what happened to me until I was in my mid-20s. And music it was that therapy. You know, I was a kid and I used to write music alone in my bedroom on my little keyboard or write poetry in my journals. And music was really an escape. So for me, once I started talking about my experiences, they started coming out in our music. And it's just very therapeutic.
Tell me, were you blind?
I think because there's just so many people that hold these things inside. You know, I think when you go through something that's traumatic, it could be anything. It could be sexual abuse as a child, as an adult. It could be something really horrific that happened to you. But when you hold that inside, it can affect you, your mental health, your emotional health in ways that you don't realize. And for me, I've discovered myself, I think that a lot of my relationships that I had as I got older, they were not healthy, they're abusive. And I think my past history and trauma as a child probably played into that a little bit. And it's only when you start to process your trauma that you can have healthy relationships and learn how to set healthy boundaries and learn to walk away from people that aren't necessarily healthy for you. I just really want people to know that you can talk about it. You know, as a survivor, it's so painful sometimes to talk about those traumatic things. But I think the more you talk about it, and in my case, the more I sing about it, the less painful it is. It's almost like a desensitization in a way where you are constantly reminding yourself like, okay, this happened, but I'm okay now. This happened, but I'm okay now. And there's just something about talking about it or performing or sharing it with other people. When you feel like you're helping others, you're also helping yourself. I've been reading a lot about therapy for PTSD and trauma, and one thing that I've learned is that to reframe some of your traumatic experiences in your own mind for yourself, whether you're dealing with flashbacks or you're dealing with depression because you have intrusive thoughts, it's really important to learn how to reframe those thoughts in your brain. For me, taking something that's really terrible and makes me feel not so good when I think about it, when I can take that experience and turn it into a song, I'm taking control of that. And it's like, it's my story now, and I can tell it the way that I want to tell it. And it's not so traumatic.
You're not blind.
Well, I will say, before I really talked about my experiences, I was writing about them in music, and it was actually easier to write a song about it because it was sort of, even though it is a little nerve-wracking to perform that song in the space of writing it, it's almost like you're distancing yourself, like you're writing a narrative. So you're able to sort of take this very personal, traumatic thing and make it kind of outside of yourself. So it's a disconnecting, but also a connecting. It was much easier for me to write about these things and allude to them maybe in songs before I could actually say the words out loud, like, this is what happened to me, or, tell anybody. So music's definitely, it was not only an escape because I was able to listen to other artists talk about their pain and be vulnerable, but it was also a means to say things when I wasn't quite ready to say them out loud to anybody, but I could still say them in music.
What you think about that? Have I sinned against heaven?
There was a point, I'm trying to think of what song it was, but we would have people come up to us at a gig and be like, I don't know if that song is about you. I don't know exactly what you've been through, or maybe who you're writing about has been through, but I just want to say, I feel that, or, I connected with that, and it was like, oh, okay. And you realize you're not the only person.
Now the prodigal child is not coming back. Squandered my inheritance. What you think about that? Have I sinned against
When we moved here to Nashville, a woman came up to us after one of our sets, and she just grabbed my hand and she was like, I just need to tell you, your story was me. And she was in probably her 50s or 60s, and she said, I've never told anybody that, but I'm telling you, like, your story is me. And I just wow, I can't, it was hard for me to not talk about what happened to me, and I noticed it was grating on my mental health. I can't imagine being a survivor and feeling like you have to keep it in for even longer than I had to. So it was pretty surreal that she was taking comfort in our music, and that's the biggest reward.
what you think about that? Have I sinned against heaven? No, the prodigal child is not coming back. I was lost and never found. What you think about that? Have I sinned?
There's a lot of debate within the community of survivors or victims of sexual violence about, is using the term survivor almost like toxic positivity, or is it empowering? Is using the term victim disempowering, or is it saying it like it is? And I would say I use probably both terms here and there. For me, I feel like survivor kind of fits my journey right now, like where I feel like I'm at in my healing journey. I can't lie, it's not easy. I don't think people understand healing from trauma in general is not just like okay, I went to counseling and now I'm healed. It's a process, but it's a good process, and you can find so much happiness, and things don't hurt the same every day. Sometimes things are bad, sometimes things are good, but so I tend to use survivor more, unless I am talking about, I guess, maybe the actual experience in the moment. Because in that moment, I was a victim. Now I feel like I'm a survivor. For me, it's empowering. Not for everyone, but for me, it is.
You just like to pretend. You hide behind the lies and denials, your best friend. felt guilty for telling the truth. And if you have a problem, well, then the problem is you.
I think I'm okay. I mean, I think I'm just on a journey. You know, I have good days and I have bad days, and the biggest relief that I will say is being able to talk about it. I think the biggest detriment to survivors is shame. So shame is what keeps us quiet, what keeps us in our own pain. It keeps us from reaching out to other people. It tells us that maybe it was our fault, or it tells us that maybe we deserved it. And I think a big part of talking about your trauma is to release yourself from shame. Putting the shame on the abuser and taking it off of you. And that I do pretty well now because I did that. But I still have bad days like everybody else. You know, I still have days where sometimes I think about it and it makes me upset, it makes me sad, or makes me mad. But talking and being open about it and having a great support system and network of people who have been through these kind of things, we're able to help each other and give each other strategies for coping. So
Not sorry anymore. I won't take it back. Go ahead, walk out that door. This is what I need to finally breathe. So I'm not sorry anymore.
sometimes people don't know how to handle information. So if a survivor comes to you, it's really important, I think, to educate yourself on how you should respond, how you should react. Sometimes people are really well-meaning and they don't realize that you can further traumatize a survivor by the way that you react to what they're telling you. So if someone's coming to you and telling you something that happened to them, it's because they trust you and they're reaching out. It takes so much for a survivor to talk about what happened to them. And I can't even describe it. It takes a lot of trust. And so the most important thing you can do is sort of just listen and not make judgments. Tell them that you understand them, you believe them, and you're sorry that happened to them. And ask them what you can do to help. And that kind of support, asking them, what can I do to help you, I think is the biggest way that you can help a survivor.
I wake up screaming in the dark. Their haunting faces break my heart. You still have.
I think it starts with teaching your kids proper boundaries. I think this is kind of common with my generation, but we always learned about stranger danger. Stranger danger, stranger danger. Don't go in a car with a stranger. But I think it's something like 80% of sexual assault victims are assaulted by someone they know. And my abuser was a family member. So it's really important to teach kids, even within their family unit, that there are boundaries. So no one touches you like this, except the doctor and me and dad in these certain circumstances. Or and teaching them how to demand respect for their own bodies. So if you have a young child and they have family members and their family members like, oh, give me a hug, teach your child, if you don't want to hug them, you can say no and you can shake their hand or give them a high five or give them a wave. It's teaching, first and foremost, I think, bodily autonomy for every person. Then kids and teenagers and adults will feel more empowered to speak up if someone does try to hurt them. And then the other half of it is men learning how to respect women. I mean, sexual assault happens in all cultures and in every group of people. But I think there's a reason why most sexual abusers tend to be male. We live in a society where we don't teach consent. Hollywood sometimes glamorizes non-consent. You know, you see the really dramatic movie scene where the guy grabs the girl and just kisses her suddenly. I mean, we kind of blur those lines. So teaching people about the principles of consent. So it's your segment. It's called Good Neighbors Listen. Yeah. It's listening, and I think, and empathy. In order to truly listen to someone and what they have to say, you have to have empathy. You have to have the ability to stop and try to think about what they're feeling right now. Despite how you're feeling, how is it they're feeling? Where are they coming from? And I think when you do that, you'd be surprised at how many people you can connect with, even people that seem so completely different than you. If you just stop and have a little empathy for a second, you can really understand where they're coming from. And I think that's everything.